All right, so we are going to today be talking about types of rocks. We're going to be looking at that information, and then we're also going to be taking notes for that. So in just a moment, we are going to watch a short video to go over the rock cycle, and then we're also going to then review your notes from yesterday to make sure you have everything that you're supposed to have. So let's take a look at the screen.
Can I get another one?
Dear Tim and Moby, what are the different types of rocks? From Sandy. Rocks are split into three basic types: igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary. Magma is molten material from deep inside the earth that comes to the surface through volcanoes. You may know it as lava. That's what it's called when it's above ground. Igneous rock forms when this molten material cools. Not all of the magma makes it out of the volcano. The rocks that form when trapped magma cools are called intrusive igneous rocks. See those big crystals? Trapped magma takes longer to cool than magma that reaches the surface. This gives the atoms time to arrange into big crystals called mineral grains. Extrusive igneous rocks form from the lava that flows out of volcanoes or from magma found very near the Earth's surface. Lava cools pretty quickly when it gets near the Earth's surface, so extrusive rocks have much smaller mineral grains than intrusive rocks. What? Sure is hot down here. Hey, that's a metamorphic rock. The rocks below the Earth's surface are under a lot of pressure from the rock layers above. Enough heat and pressure will turn those rocks back into molten magma. But if it doesn't get quite hot enough for the rocks to melt, the rocks will be cooked and smushed into a new type of rock. Metamorphic rocks have mineral grains that are flattened and aligned. An igneous rock can be transformed into a metamorphic rock when enough heat and pressure are applied. Okay, how'd we get here? Oh, those are sedimentary rocks. They're made from bits of eroded rock, mineral grains, and plant and animal remains that have been pressed together over time. Lots of times, sedimentary rocks form from the remains of other rocks. The layers are important because the oldest rock is at the bottom. True, if you were to dig in and upset the layers, some old rock pieces might be overturned and moved to the surface. What are you doing? We'd better get going. Moby?
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our notes from yesterday to formulate our notes for today. Now, you already had this information. You should have been able to fill this information in on your notes. And this is basically kind of looking at the rock cycle and seeing that it is a cycle, because you see the circle and you see everything goes back and forth. But this was just a small portion of a kind of a cycle. It doesn't really explain much. You see erosion happening there. You see sedimentation. But now we're going to be able to break these things down in your notes. And then we're going to draw it in a way that we can actually understand it by, you drew it first and then you took notes. We're going to draw it from our notes so that we have a better understanding of our notes. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look. Make sure my screen is calibrated. For a second. I apologize. There we go. Hopefully it'll work now. All right. Your first portion of your notes said there were three rocks, three rock types, correct?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to label out one, and then I'm going to be calling you up to write down the information of the things that you need that you felt was important to write about that rock. I'm going to put a color pad on here so you can choose the color that you want to write with. But I'm going to label them out in black. So what was the first rock type?
Igneous.
Igneous rock. And I know all of you are not as tall as me. It wasn't a joke. 1 second. So we have igneous rock. Now, when you come up here and you make some notes about this rock, please do not write everything word for word if you did that from the website, because we're not really looking for that. These are notes. We need to be able to break down some information and be able to better explain it just with the notes without trying to copy everything. If that was the case, I would have printed out the page for you and just said, take this. All right? Don't press these yellow buttons on there. And then just touch the color that you want. But I do want them to be in different, at least be in different colors. Try to write with the, like the tip of it. Like when you're writing, it's not like a pencil, so it can't be slanted. Try to write with the tip and go ahead right underneath. Mm-hmm. You can hold it just like a regular pencil, though. Try it. It'll work. It'll still work. Just don't want to lean it all the way. There you go. What are you trying to erase? Okay. That's a little bit difficult because it's not the smart board. Formed from cooling and, because it's a rock, and hardening. Just put the plus sign. Oh yeah, well, and if you start writing it. And you all think it's easy to write with this, but it's until you come up here, then you realize it's not as easy as it looks. All right, so it forms from cooling and hardening. That's igneous rock. One of the other things that you want to put, or is there anything else that you think that you should be putting on here? From magma, molten magma. Molten magma intruded, because we know that magma is located where? Underneath. So you also want to kind of draw a little picture maybe on your notes. And the picture that I'm going to draw is just a little volcano. Where's the magma?
Under.
This, and you have color pencils at your lab station in case you want to color code yours too. This is magma. And magma is intrusive, meaning it's where?
Under.
On the inside. Intrusive. It's in there and it's going to come out, which is lava, which you think is what? This is intrusive. Lava must be extrusive. Thank you. Any questions for that? Yes.
This is going on this paper.
Nope, this is in your notes from yesterday. You're fixing it. You're adding anything or fixing anything that you already added on yesterday. Okay? I'm just going to go ahead and delete this picture. Oh, no, I'll keep it on there. And but I'm going to move it up some. All right. What's our next rock type? Sedimentary rock. One second. So we have our sedimentary rock. With our sedimentary rock, what words do you hear? Sediment. What does that mean?
Small particles of rock.
It settles. And in order for it to settle, it has to be little particles. Think of dust. When dust is in the air, it has to then settle. It settled down, meaning it lays down in an area, correct? So for sedimentary rock, that's going to be very important for you to give us some information for that. So who would like to come up and write the information? Again, don't touch these yellow buttons. But you're going to just like a pencil. With the tip, silly. Thank you. I'm not sure if that's going to show dark enough, but you can try it. Does everybody see that color? Okay, good. What? Stop one there a second. Back up 1 second. What's compaction? Being pressed together. Okay, good. And? You can put a plus sign for and because it's our notes. Now, what's cementing?
Martin? Oh, wait, oh.
What's cement?
Oh, they look liquid.
Yeah, so what's cementing? Because cement, hardening, it's being pressed together and then hardening, but at a pressed state. Stop for 1 second. Do we need to write anything else?
Yes.
What are you about to write? Tell us first. Well, we don't need to because that's compacting. Is there anything else that needs to go up here? Jenny?
I said that it's formed by weather and erosion.
You need to write that. Change that whatever you wrote there to an F. Formed by, raise your hand 1 second. Why, by what, Jenny?
Weathering and erosion.
Weathering. Just write weathering for a second because I have a question. What's weathering?
Like what? Breaking it down.
Breaking it down through
Weather.
weather, like
Rain.
rain,
Snow.
snow, wind, hail, all of those things. And that when rain, snow, wind, hail comes, it's going to break it down, which causes erosion and erosion. Write that down. If you don't know what these things are and you had to tell me or it hurt it for you to get it out, then you need to be putting your notes. For instance, compaction and cementing. You need to write that down, Jamario, what compacting and cementing is if you did not know that. Any questions about that? Are we good? All right. So one thing I do want to show you is for sedimentary. It will pop up on the screen. Will it? You see? Yeah, okay, good. All right, so this is your sedimentary rock, if I can. So notice you have little itty bitty pieces of rock. And these are your sediments. But in order for it to become a rock layer or a portion of a rock, what has to happen with it? It has to compact and cement. So it compacts and then it cements. It gets harder so it can become one rock instead of a bunch of pieces of rock. All right? How did it become a bunch of pieces of rock? Weather and erosion. That's how it got broken down. This was one big rock, probably something that could have looked like this. And then this got crushed and broken down and chopped through weathering and erosion. And that's how it became your little pieces. Any questions for that? Okay, very good. So now we're back here. What's our next rock type? Metamorphic.
Can I do that one? Oh.
All right, now with metamorphic, what's the word that you hear?
More.
Morph. What does morph mean?
Like more
To change. Think of Ben 10. Ben 10 was able, this is your cartoon you watched when you were a little younger. Ben 10 was able to morph into other characters. Which means that he was able to change into other characters. So metamorphic rock has something to do with change. Aquarius.
Oh my God.
Choose a color. You're left-handed?
Yep.
My son is left-handed. Those are geniuses.
See? Yeah, from good.
From, what are you writing?
Oh. I was gonna put from the material.
From when the materials?
I mean, what? Never mind. Just
No. You up here now. Let's just add one word to this.
I did not.
Here we go. Forms. Tell me if you're having a hard time writing on here. Forms when what?
When
When what?
minerals, yeah, minerals. I said material. And
When minerals do what? Remember that word morph. What does that mean? Change. They change what? Two things. Nope, I don't want to know by what yet. I want to know they change the shape and. But I'm not even going to put shape. I'm going to put composition. And, I know, I started to put a S. Composition and texture. Now, what's composition? Thank you, Aquarius. What's composition? The makeup of it. And then, what's texture? Now remember, if it's rock, it can't become harder rock. So it must going to become, in order to do that, it has to do that through what type of process? Melting. Well, how do you make something melt? You add? So, by heat. And only for it to be able to change the texture, come softer, you have to heat it up. To change the composition of it, meaning you have to heat it, add fire to it, but also to change the shape or the way that it looks, you also are going to add some pressure. When you metamorph, you do it because of heat and pressure. If it gets hot in here, you're going to start to come out of your sweatshirt, and that's it. If the pressure rises, your attitude's going to change, right? Yeah. Think about that. If that's something that'll help you, make sure you know that morph is to change. That's very important. Any questions about this? Yes. Question. Yeah, well, these are rocks, so we know that it's going to change from existing rocks. But if you have that on your notes and you didn't know that, then yes, you do need to put that on there. Yes. Jimmy, take my nurse's pass back there. Any questions about this? Okay. All right, then let's move on because our next portion is now going to talk about the process of a rock cycle. What does that mean, the process of a rock cycle? The stages that it goes through. So if you don't know what the process of a rock cycle is, you do want to write down the stages. So what's the first, not necessarily the first because it doesn't go in order, but what's one of them that you probably wrote down first, Jenny? Crystallization.
this is for the back. Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, Jenny.
Oh, I didn't write nothing down.
Oh, anybody else get there? Come on, Antasia. Press whatever color you want, and then you tell us what's important about the process or what happens during the process of crystallization.
Happy birthday.
Oh, yes.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Anastasia.
Happy birthday. Feliz cumpleaños. Magma cools. Magma cools underground surface and hardens into igneous rock. One way we could have shortened this is igneous rock is formed from cooling magma underground. All right? And that's crystallization, meaning that it's going to form something like a crystal, which will look something like this. All right? And that comes from that underground pressure. All righty. And that's all we really need to write for that. What was our next one? Erosion and sedimentation. But that was a big umbrella for our next one, which was, well, no, you know what? Let's put this down because there's a process that happens under here. So erosion and sedimentation. If crystallization, you have erosion and sedimentation. What's important that happens for erosion and sedimentation? Janie? How does the process of erosion and sedimentation happen, Aaron? If you need to tell us before you write it to kind of make sure the words are there, because as the teacher, you don't want to write something and then be like, oh, wait, I changed my mind, or have too much and we could have condensed it. Tell me what happens. Summarize this. What's erosion?
Transporting the rocks.
It's not the transporting, the breaking down. So erosion is the process of do you need to write the process of? So what word should we start with? The what? Tell me loud. The breaking down of what? Of rocks. It's okay. That says down because you're kind of blocking the signal, so just come over here and keep writing. Breaking down of. Do we need to say into smaller pieces? No, because we know that if it's breaking down, it's rocks. Now, we could put smaller pieces because the breaking down is the erosion. Smaller pieces is the fact that it's sediments. But we can leave it like this because we understand, we're advanced enough in our thinking to understand that when if it's broken down, they are going to be sediments. If you're not advanced enough in your thinking right now, keep that a secret. It's fine, but write it down so that you can become advanced enough. All right. And what else happens during this time? How does this breaking down of rocks occur? The breaking down of rocks due to, speak up, weathering. And then, I'm not going to write it, but if you do not know this, thank you so much, Erin. Weathering, what's weathering? What's weathering, though? I am going to write it then. What's weathering?
Rain.
Jenny, I keep saying what's weather, and you keep telling me breaking down the rocks by weather. So I'm asking you, what is weather? What weather? What type of weather? What's weathering? Rain. Wind. Snow. Sleet. Hail. Glaciering. All of that stuff, etc., is going to happen, and that's going to break down these rocks. All right? Any questions about that? What's our next process? Metamorphism. Metamorphism. Again, what is in particularly happens during metamorphism? Change. So, Shania, you want to come up? No? Why not? Jeremiah, you want to come up? No? All right. Then I'll go. Tell me then. Okay, you didn't get to that portion yesterday? That's fine. But see if we can figure it out, though. If it's talking about change, what's changing? Think about what we just wrote about metamorphic rocks. Help us out. But what's changing? What's changing, though? Thank you, Shania. You just got a deep voice all of a sudden.
The rock.
Changing of rock, because remember, this is the process of the rock cycle. The rock cycle is how do the rocks change throughout this cycle? How does it go from one type of rock to another type of rock? It does it through crystallization when the magma cools underground, hardening, changing into igneous rock. It does it through erosion and sedimentation when the rock is broken down due to weather, changing into another type of rock. It does it through metamorphism when the rocks are changed because of what? Heat and pressure. Simple enough, right? So now we broke down our notes. The next portion, you had to draw your bubble map. If you didn't get to that, then you are going to need to get that on your time. I'm not going to leave this up here, but it's always on the website. But what this is saying is basically we have our cycle of rocks. From our cycle of rocks, it forms igneous rock, metamorphic rock, and sedimentary rock. Starting with the igneous rock. Igneous rock is formed due to crystallization. Metamorphic rock forms from metamorphism. Sedimentary rock is formed by weathering and erosion, forms sediments. It also is formed due to sedimentation. What's this precipitate thing? Well, precipitation is rain, but the reason why rain, sleet, snow, or hail, the reason why it's called precipitation is because it is a precipitate. But what is that? A precipitate, and if you don't know this, you want to write it down. It is the gathering of materials. That's a simplest definition that I can give you. So for instance, when it snows, it's the gathering of the snow that falls from the sky. It's the gathering of the rain that falls from the sky. So what do you think? Why do you think we call this a precipitate? It's the gathering of the pieces of rock. Well, to put it all together would be that. But this is like you have all these little pieces. Like you have little pieces of rain, if you want to call them pieces, but droplets of rain, droplets of snow, droplets of hail, pieces of hail, things of that nature. Is that understood?
Like when the rain go down the window and then
No, rain period is precipitates because it's not one big splash. It's little separate pieces gathered together. All right. So then lastly, on your piece of paper that I gave you, your blank sheet of paper, we are going to draw out the rock cycle. I'm not going to title it, but you need to title this the rock cycle. You should have titled it page 68, rock cycle. It's paper over here, Jamario. They have some over here. And we're going to draw it out, and we're going to do it fairly quickly. We have time, but we're going to do it very quickly. But now, the first time you took the notes, you had the picture, you labeled it, you developed notes. Now, from your notes, we are going to develop the rock cycle. Is that understood? All right, I'm going to start with igneous rock. You have colored pencils at your lab station if you want to use colored pencils as well. And because the igneous rock is the type of rock that was formed how? Cooling of what? Magma. And igneous rock usually formed from an intruded type of rock. It was intrusion. That's last year's word. What's intrusion? When it breaks through. Remember, magma was from intrusion. It was on the inside. It had to come out. So igneous rock is formed from intrusion. So this would be like in the inside of a volcano. If that rock came out and that magma came out and it cooled and hardened on the outside, this is where we get our igneous rock from. All right? So I'm just going to draw it, just kind of jaggedly coming up because it was a liquid that cooled. All right? Now, because it is a cycle, this igneous rock can be transformed to another type of rock. Over here, what do I want to use? I'm going to put my, in gray, sedimentary rock. And with this rock, it was a hardened piece of rock that cracked and changed into what? Small pieces of rock. Small precipitates of rock. All right? What's our third type of rock? Metamorphic rock. What is metamorphic rock, though, again?
Oh, when the rocks texture and
The way that it looks, the composition changes. So you've seen rocks when you're driving along the highway and you look on the side. You've seen rocks look folded like this. This is folding. Remember we talked about features and events. Always. This would be a what? A feature or an event?
Feature.
It's been folded. This is an event. All right. So we have our igneous rock, we have our sedimentary rock, and we have our metamorphic rock. Now remember, your igneous rock can change to sedimentary rock. How? Look at your processes. What would be the way that it can change? Erosion, definitely. Erosion. And how do things erode? Due to what? Weathering. You want to write and weathering. So erosion and weathering. All right, so make sure we put weather and erosion. Now, throughout the course of the notes, you all did not mention these two very important vocabulary words. There were two things that were mentioned when you took notes on yesterday, talking about when the rocks are, because, let me say this. If this rock breaks down, you're going to get these little pieces, which are sedimentary rock. But when we look at the layers of the rocks, when we look at rocks, you see the little pieces, but they have been stuck together, basically. It's not all these little pieces of rock just flying all over the place. They're kind of stuck together. What's that sticking together of that rock or putting it together? Compaction. And that sticking together of it. Cementing. Can our sedimentary rock go back to metamorphic rock? I'm sorry, igneous rock, I apologize. Can our sedimentary rock go back to igneous rock? How? Remember what igneous rock was? Okay, so how do we get this to be magma? How do we get it to be a liquid-like substance? Heating? You need to raise your hand. Heating, but this is, igneous rock's not a liquid. So once it heats, then what? Cooling. So when we put heating, we do need to put melting and cooling. this rock melts, then it needs to cool to be an igneous rock. So far, so good? Okay. Still, now let's go back, stay with our igneous rock because we went back to igneous rock. Can our igneous rock be metamorphic rock? Remember, your metamorphic rock was a type of rock that was what? Changed due to heat and pressure. So how does igneous rock become metamorphic rock? Heat and pressure. Can our metamorphic rock be igneous rock? Through what? Melting and cooling. Is it a cycle yet? No, it's definitely not a cycle. So metamorphic, can that be changed to sedimentary? Yes. How? Through weathering and erosion. But don't forget about our two important terms. Compact and cementing. Can our sedimentary be metamorphic? Huh? Through what? Heat and pressure. And this concludes our notes. Our rock cycle notes. And we are now finished.